In light of the Fairfax scandal continuing to grow and the Fairfax County schools releasing their interim report where they swear they didn't do anything wrong, I thought it was important to sit down with the original source of this information and bring it to everybody so that everybody can see the real both sides of this argument, one from the teacher and the one from Fairfax, seeing how they believe that they've managed to tell everybody that this is all fake, that this is all made up, that this teacher is a liar. So I thought it was important to bring this to everybody so that we know exactly who this woman is and exactly why the allegations are very serious and why Fairfax is so desperate to make it go away. Check it out. All right, everybody, this is Walter Curt, and I'm sitting here with the whistleblower from the Fairfax story, Zenaida Perez. And Zenaida, I'm so glad that you managed to join us today. It's been a crazy couple days here, especially with the Fairfax releasing their, whatever they call it, this interim report and immediately getting it published in, Virginia Scope and Washington Post. But obviously, as a response to that, they've now lied to everybody, including the Senate. But that's not why you're here today. I want people to know who you are today, because this story has been something else to watch from the beginning of this, and I've never seen a school district, and I've never covered a institution like this that is so willing to lie. And it really has been something else to me. I've never seen anything like this. So I want people to understand who you are and why the Fairfax school, that what their problem is with this, and why they can't seem to be honest with anybody. And I think it's a good place to start with who you are and why you told this story in the first place.
Yes, my name is Zenaida Perez. I came from Cuba in 1990, and I've been a teacher all my life. My father was an accountant in Cuba, and when Fidel took power, they took everything from him. They nationalized everything. And my father came to the US before I came. He was here in 1980. So in 1990, he sent me the visa when I came to the US. Soon after that, I was teaching in Sarasota County Public Schools. And then in 2005, I moved to Virginia and I was teaching English and ESOL as well as Spanish. I've been endorsed in English, ESOL, and Spanish all these years, and teaching is my passion. I am a teacher by nature, and I see how all these girls come from other countries, and I have empathy, and I want to give back what I have received throughout all these years. Many people helped me when I came to the US back in 1990, and I was living in Miami. And then after that, I was in Sarasota. I was highly involved with the Hispanic and all the immigrants that were there as my ESOL students. So I have developed this loving and kind relationship with them. And I felt identified with those girls, and I wanted to do my best for them, not only academically and linguistically, but also emotionally, socially, spiritually. I want them to have a future. I want them to work and see the fruit of the so precious American dream. So that's why I help them. I go the extra mile and I do my best to help them in every way, shape, and form.
So that's actually amazing. So I want to go on off of what you just said there, how you wanted you to live the American dream, because there was something really interesting that they included in the Fairfax report. And I don't think a lot of people noticed it, but I did. In somewhere in the midst of this giant 60-page monstrosity, they actually do foolishly include things that make you look fantastic, which I just thought was hysterical. They've got it in here. They're like, they're trying to argue that you spend too much time and you take too much care with families and students and everything else. And then they say, in the midst of this, they say, well, at one point she was willing to give somebody she was willing to sign the title of someone's car so that they could get better insurance rates for their car insurance. And I was like, well, that's amazing. Like, who's ever done something like that before? And they're trying to say, well, she's just too involved with the students. And I was like, well, and I intentionally asked people. I asked a couple people, I said, have you ever had a teacher that would actually be willing to do this, sign this and get better insurance rates for their students or something like that? What would you think about that teacher? And said, that's incredibly friendly. No one's ever done that before. So they in this report, they're trying to frame you as a vindictive, and, retaliatory person against the other people in the school district. And then within their same report, they're also saying that you are so willing to help your students that you will help them get car insurance for cheaper rates. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. And it tells me that this whole report read like I don't know, like a Vanity Fair hit piece. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. It's not a legal report. They don't have any. The King and Spalding, their billion-dollar law firm, may have written it, and they may have underwritten it. But to me, that doesn't look like it. That's a media hit. That's what that is, and it's full of lies. And not only is it full of lies, it's contradictory statements throughout the whole thing. So I just, when you say that you care about these students, and when I read that, I was like, that's not a normal response from a teacher. Teachers don't have to do that. Teachers can just go home at the end of the day. They don't have to care about the kids. But that's not you. And that to me shows you that this is what they're trying to paint you as doesn't make any sense to me. They're trying to paint you as this vindictive person who's just way too involved with their students, and is just mad at Carolina Diaz and Chad Lehman so you're so angry at them that for 4 years you've risked your job and let them come after you and cause all sorts of professional problems for you. It is the most nonsensical argument I've ever seen. And the fact that they claimed that they did an investigation, that they did all these investigations, and then that's why we had to release that recording that we did, the newest recording that we did. If for all the listeners of this show, if you haven't seen it yet, the Fairfax County schools, they claim within their most recent report that they informed the parent, and the legal guardian in this case, they informed him and that he was completely and 100% aware. Well, he's on recording saying, "No, I wasn't." So that completely counters their whole narrative. Their whole narrative has just fallen apart in one day. So it's amazing to me that their intention is to try and paint you as a vindictive, mean person that just wants to come after these people and be mean to them and whatnot. But at the same time, they say that you're willing to do this, that you're willing to even take care of your students to the point of getting them car insurance. What do you think about some of the contradictory statements within this report? I mean, it really is amazing to me.
They are trying to portray me as a person who does not have boundaries with the students. They accuse me of not having boundaries, not only for helping that poor family who could not send their child to school because he was living out of the section, out of the subdivision. And his father reached out to me and said he will not be able to graduate from high school because I just bought a cheap transportation who needs to be titled, registered, and insured, but he does not have his driver's license yet. I responded, it's a risk, but I would do it for a couple of months until you get everything straight so he can graduate from high school. The father was absolutely thankful and he was so grateful and telling me, "God bless you. We love you so much, Miss Perez, for doing that." I never thought that an act of kindness and generosity towards a family who really needed help was going to be twisted in such a vile manner, and they were going to attack me so savagely to that point that the principal at the school was spreading rumors very defamatory against me because of that act of kindness that I did from the bottom of my heart. I would do anything to help a person. I would take my food and give it to them if it is necessary, my clothes, everything to help them out because I really know they are in need. I never thought that the principal would have a meeting with me on January 22nd and accuse me of not having boundaries. And he even said that I had an illicit relationship with that student, which is absolutely atrocious. They have defamed me, they have slandered me, they have attacked me in such a horrible manner that I have no words to describe the sadness that this has brought to my life and how it has devastated me and my family.
Well, the unfortunate part is that it took so long for this to actually come to light, and the reality is that some people may be a little bit worried about what this Fairfax school is going to do because they do have big lawyers and they do have big law firms, and and they think that they can intimidate people. I mean, I know I've talked to a whistleblower, a different whistleblower for a completely different case, and they pursued her for years. I mean, for years they have pursued her through the courts, demanding that they pay her, that she pays them in legal fees and all sorts of stuff. I mean, these people are vindictive. They're vindictive people, and you can see that in the way that they act. I mean, I'll never forget the first, after we first broke this story, the August 5th story. For those who are not aware what the August 5th story was, this is the reason that this became a case in the first place. Is bolted doors and broken laws is the name of the article. The moment that story released, a firestorm unleashed, and they were furious, and they brought in this attorney, Mary McGowan, and they use your interview with her in this most recent one to try and make it seem like you said something wrong in there. And, they amazing. And we called that, actually. We said that was going to happen. They said that they were going to use that against you. So, they are desperate to use any incident that they possibly can against you. That's what they want. Anything that they can get you on tape saying, anything they can record you saying, anything that they can claim that you said. But this is one thing that I think is interesting. And I don't know if you have a reason for it other than maybe your background, maybe your family, the fact that your family came from Cuba. But what was it that really made you realize you needed to start recording everything? I mean, this is not necessarily something that's like, I wouldn't think to have to record my colleagues on a regular basis. Like, it's not something I normally would think about doing. So I'm curious, what was it that really, really set you in that path, saying these people they're not trustworthy, and I'm going to have to start recording them, because if not, they're going to use it against me? What was it that made that difference for you?
Well, since they started harassing me in 2022 with an excuse using a pregnancy test, that they set me up with that. After that, I was having conversations and talks with one of the securities at Centerville High School, who has been terribly harassed by Chad Lehman, to the point that she had to retire early. So Chad Lehman is notorious for being nepotistic, corrupt, bringing his friends to the job. So he wanted her to resign, to leave. And she told me, because she had experience as a police officer before, she told me, you need to record everything. So from that day on, I started recording all the meetings, conversations, interactions with people that I knew were going to chase me later. It's like having common sense. It's like using my initiative, my thinking. I knew that this was coming.
Right. Well, I mean, and I just wonder, there's very few people that would have that kind of instinct to them. And I do wonder if it has to do with your background, the fact that your family came from Cuba, where it is obvious that the government around you will try and harm you and try and come after you.
True.
In that, you would think in America that's not something you have to worry about, but you were smart enough to see through it. And that's one thing I've always found amazing about this. I mean, when I first started looking at this case, and I, to be honest with you, when you first hear about it, you're like, there's no way. There's no way that's true. Like, there's no way. That's got to be wild. That's got to be completely outlandish. And then, I get the signed letter, which they claim you forged, which is just nonsense. I mean, they've got the signature. They even, I love that they claim it's a forgery, but they still at the very bottom of it, they have to blur out the signature from the girl. Oh, it's a forgery then. Okay, just it's amazing. Anyway, so it really was something else when you look at this whole story. They claim that all this stuff is not happening, and I look at the evidence, and I'm like, okay, this has got to be crazy that it is happening in the first place. But I talked to you, and I talked to a couple other people. I talked to a couple other sources specifically on this matter, and then I start going down the evidence line, and you have recordings, you've got letters, you've got witness statements, you've got. It's like a prepackaged story that is almost so ready that it's amazing to me that someone wasn't willing to take it up in the past. Now, I understand that some people were trying to figure out the best way to go about it, and there's some people that did have the story and they just didn't bring it out yet. But, sometimes it just takes somebody with fresh eyes looking at something to just say, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to get it out there. You need to get it in front of people so they see it. And, the idea that this is all fake in some way is amazing to me. I love that in this 62-page report, they claimed that they had just found out about these allegations Well, that's complete nonsense. I mean, we have the recording that we released, and this is why we hit them again immediately. And they seem to have forgotten about this in their 62-page report here. Because they say in the 62-page report, we just found out about this in August, August 5th. That's the day we found out about it, even though we had already released a recording saying you were meeting with James Mackey, the FCPS investigator, back in May. So if an investigator knew about it in May, why wasn't there an investigation done then? That's not what you did. That's not what they did. They started a new investigation, with a $1 billion law firm underwriting it, King and Spalding, which, by the way, I've pulled the financial records from Fairfax County Schools, by the way, and I'll make sure that I share this with people in this. I'll put this somewhere up on the screen. $2 million last year. That's how much they paid King and Spalding. $2 million. Wow. Yeah, the King and Spalding is making lots of money from the Fairfax County taxpayers. So that's a huge amount of money. And you can use that, their financial tracker that Fairfax has on their website. You can actually look King and Spalding up and see it in there. But anyway, so they bring all this stuff forward, and they just, like, do you think Senator Bill Cassidy is going to be very pleased that they lied directly to him? I mean, that seems pretty amazing to me.
They didn't answer any of the requests that Senator Cassidy was asking them. For instance, what they would do when girls get pregnant, what they would do if there are cases of abortions, how they communicate with the families, and all those things. They didn't reply to Senator Cassidy, about all the retaliatory actions that they took against me. And then they used the statements of student C, that I have a recording from her, and her letter stating that there were other girls pregnant in the building at the same time when she was pregnant. And 2 weeks later, those girls were not pregnant anymore. What happened? They all had abortions because they didn't have miscarriages. A lot of girls have been having abortions. I think student B and student C were not the only ones who got pregnant. And they have been offering abortions for a very long time. And they have been paying for those abortions. It is a fact.
The amazing thing about this is, and this is the darker part of this story, which is very difficult for me to, like, when I first started talking about it, it was hard for me to think about this because I think it might be very true. How many students do you think it was, really? I mean, that's the thing is, like, when I saw that there was 2, I said, there's no way it's 2. There's no way. If there's 2, there's 20. And if there's 20, there's 100. I mean, you don't know, because how long has it been happening where we don't know exactly how long it's been going on? We don't know how long this policy's been in place. You do know that in liberal cities and liberal counties and whatnot, up in the Northeast and whatnot, they don't have any parental notification. And that's what they want. That's what they want. They don't want any parental notification. They don't want to have to tell people. They don't want to have to tell you. But the thing is that really bothers me about this story is that, these girls, they don't know that this is not legal or not legal, or illegal or legal. And they just do it anyway. And the school just goes along with it. I mean, that's, to me, is what the biggest problem with it, I guess it is. They know that they're willing to lie. They're willing to lie about it. And I think that's the biggest thing. And just completely concealing it from people because they figure they'll get away with it. And it's shocking to me.
They are willing to lie because they cover each other's tracks. And all the corruption that has been taking place in Fairfax County is covered by the superintendent and all of those people that are in your circle. So I really wanted to bring it to light back in 2022 when it happened, when student B came to me telling me everything, because I was calling the name of another student who had a baby. And I said, so and so, where is she? And then student B showed up and told me she had a baby and she could have received the same support that I received. The social worker made the appointment and she arranged everything. And then my boyfriend drove me to the clinic in Falls Church. And then I asked her, how much did you have to pay? And she said, oh no, it was free. And I asked her again, did they give you any papers, any documentation for your family to sign and approve it? And she said, yes, he gave me an envelope that was sealed, and she told me not to open it. Only when I got to the clinic, I gave it to the people there. And her boyfriend drove her to the clinic. And then the rest is history. She got home, she was bleeding profusely. Her uncle or legal guardian saw it and took her immediately to the emergency room in Innova Hospital here in Northern Virginia, in Fair Lakes. And then they took care of her. They stopped the bleeding and examined her. And they said she's not pregnant anymore, like it is in the recording. That's exactly what the uncle legal guardian.
And that's why we released. That's why the recording was so important.
It
And
is.
for that, the recording was important to release, especially after they came out here and said that that you had just come up with all this and it's all concocted and fabricated. Just a note on this briefly here. Isn't it kind of interesting that they were willing to go out and say that publicly, not just to you, but to all of your colleagues? They came out and they said it in they released it as a recording to the entire staff, did they not? I mean, that's what it looks like to me. That's what they did. They released it in this that was on their website. It was some like pre-scripted recording, which sounded like it was an AI speaking, but it was Michelle Reid making. I guess she had someone else make some polished statement for her. She's too privy and too highfalutin to make sure she has to make real statements. But she claimed it was from her.
Yes. I also want to remark the student B came from her country without any previous education. She cannot write well in Spanish or English either. Her first language is Ichil, because that's the dialect that they speak in the region where she lived. So, based on that, and the very short time that she was going to have to the interview that we were having, she told me, Miss Perez, you write what I'm telling you, and I will sign it. And that is exactly what happened. And I know it is absolutely legal because her signature is there.
Well, that's the point, right? That's the point. Like they don't understand. They claim you forged this whole letter. You forged it. You created it. You fabricated it out of anywhere. But the signature is still redacted. Even on their new report, the signature, if it was a forgery, why did you redact it? Why did you redact it? If it's a forgery, why'd you redact the signature? And it's amazing to me that they claim out here and they come in here and say this. But the thing is, we don't even need the signature because we have multiple other versions of this exact event. We don't even need the letter. The letter is just the physical document that we have, but we don't have just the physical document, which is why this is amazing to me. I know the only risk I knew we took, okay, when this happened and we decided, okay, we're going to release recording. The only risk I know we took with that is that I think that it's partial that Fairfax, the lawyers and everybody else, they were trying to goad us into releasing more evidence so that they can have a better defense in the legal findings. I think that's kind of what they really wanted. Now that would mean that they know that they're in hot water to a whole nother level. And I think that they really are, because the one thing that people seem to forget about this whole case, and, I know I'll probably have to edit in like a brief overview so people understand exactly where we're at in this case. But people really seem to forget that Fairfax as a school, they don't even have to, there's a state police investigation open into this. They don't have to go talk to Fairfax. They can go straight to the abortion clinic and they could say, give us all your records. And they can't say no. Do you think that little podunk abortion clinic is going to have $1 billion law firms representing them? No, they're not. No, they're not. The Fairfax, the Virginia State Police doesn't have to go to the Fairfax people. They can say, how many students from Fairfax County High School have been referred here? Give us the records right now, or you're going to be in prison for illegal. You're performing illegal abortions, and that's what this is. So if you have those records, then you need to provide them to the state police. The state police doesn't have to talk to Fairfax, and that's what I find so funny about this. And I think that's why they're terrified, because they realize, well, maybe they don't realize it. Maybe they're not smart enough to realize that the Virginia State Police investigation could do whatever it wants. It doesn't need them, which is why it's so funny to me that they keep sending you these emails like, you can't talk about this. You need to provide us all this information and make sure What is with these people? Do they think we're foolish? I mean, I don't know what. Like, I've never dealt with a group of people that are so corrupt that they believe that they can just keep telling you, this is confidential and you can't share this information. It's like, what? You're not a client. You're not that's not your attorney sending you that information. That's not attorney-client privilege. You know, they just want to keep intimidating people. It's amazing, though. They seem to forget that this Virginia State Police investigation, they have no control over it. And I think that's what scares them more than anything else.
Absolutely. They want to silence everyone. They were threatening all the employees at Centerville High School, all the staff and the teachers on that memorandum that the main counsel of the subdivision, Mr. John Foster, sent on September 11th. And later on, now on this 62-page letter that those lawyers wrote, they are saying that I was the one who leaked the emails. They didn't email it to me. They excluded me and Miss Perry, who has been always supporting me. And on top of that, they are now accusing me of leaking it and sending it to the media, which does not make absolutely any sense at all. And the point is, like you said, they want to incriminate me of anything that comes to their mind.
But the funny thing about this is, and they're saying, oh my goodness, something leaked to the media. Like, one, these people are foolish to think that I only have one source inside of the school now. Okay, like after this broke, I've got a bunch of people that talk to me all the time now. So it's, you know, you have supporters within your school, even if they're silent. I promise you that. But the problem for them is that they can't tell people not to do what they're doing. They're just yelling into the wind as if it matters. You know, you cannot force people to not talk about your internal investigation. Okay, that's not how that works. Okay, just because your employees, you send them an email saying that this is a attorney-client privilege and you know, super special investigative email, like, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything at all. Like, you can say it and you can do it so that you try and scare people not in and saying anything, but none of that matters. None of that matters at all. You know, they can claim that this happens and this doesn't happen, but it doesn't matter. You can't force people to become part of your attorney-client privilege. You would have to have signed or agreed to something, and you already have attorneys. See, that's what I guess is the most amazing about this all to me, is that, you know, they consistently, and this is one of the good things that you've done, is that you've consistently kept at track of all the times that they've asked you in emails information that they should be asking your attorney for, but they keep asking you, not your attorney. They don't go directly to your attorney. They go to you, and they keep doing that, and they know that they're not supposed to do that. Absolutely. That's what's interesting about it. They know they're not supposed to do that.
They know, but they have two sets of rules. One for themselves that they can violate it every single time they want to, and the one for the students, the teachers, and the parents, and they are just leaving us out, and they walk on us every single time they want to. They're treating us as if we were slaves or as if we didn't have any rights. And I know my legal rights that, by the way, have been violated multiple times by John Foster emailing me directly and sending all of his friends from the school, Mr. Brown and Dr. Healy, the principal, to harass me, retaliate against me, to put me on the summative assessment evaluation cycle, and so on and so forth.
You know, let's talk about that for just a minute here. So just so people understand, what exactly is a summative evaluation report? What is that? Tell so that way people that have never heard of it before, and let them know what that means.
A summative evaluation cycle takes place every 3 years. So teachers, in order to keep their teaching license current, they have evaluations every 3 years, and there are 8 standards that are observed, like lesson planning, assessments, accommodations to the students, how you know your subject area, how you administer tests, and how the students contribute, how you keep yourself professional, how you participate in assessments and developments to keep your career going well.
Okay, so it's essentially a full, you know, performance evaluation for you as a teacher. Now,
Yes.
And here's what's interesting about this. And, I talked briefly with some of your colleagues about this, about what exactly they did to do this. And then you and I communicated directly on it. They brought you in to a meeting about a bullying case where students that weren't even in your class were bullying another student, and you don't have any of these students, correct?
I don't have them at all.
That's right. So you have none of these students. And, this is what's interesting to me, is that they bring you in as if it's your direct involvement with what's going on here.
Yes.
And then start asking you questions. And this is where we get into the interesting part about this, because the questions that they ask, a couple of these questions, you start to realize what they're doing in the midst of this. And you start asking them, well, I can't talk about that. I can't talk about that. Why are you asking about that? And then he was, well, I'm just trying to prod. And he says the word prod. And I was like, what? I mean, he said, I'm just trying to prod that a little bit. He said, they're trying to ask about these state police investigations. So how is this not obstruction? How is this not messing with witnesses? It doesn't make any sense to me how they're getting away with this stuff, but it's because they're not used to it. They're not used to someone standing up against them and being successful at standing up against them. And I think that's the biggest key here, is normally they don't have any success with it. That's their biggest problem. So normally, someone stands up against them and they flatten them right away, but that's not working, because this has been going on for multiple years now, and you have the recordings and all the evidence to back it up, which is the problem for them. And they're freaking out over it, obviously.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. They are using any kind of obsolete strategies that don't work, like making excuses to have meetings with me. And the latest one was about that bullying situation that took place among 3 or 4 girls that are not even in my classes. Fortunately, one of them came to me willingly to tell me the truth, and I reported it as well. And she told me that it's so evident that Mr. Brown, the assistant principal in the Ichil department, has something against me. He wants to incriminate me of something, and they want to hurt me. She said it clearly in that 2-minute recording.
Yeah, I mean, it's very obvious to me that they are in a scenario that they've never been in before, that they don't know what to do, and that as a result of that, the people that are up at the very top of that, which must be John Foster or Michelle Reid or the people at the very top of this, they're furious, and they really are just sending anything they can. They're trying to get anything they can to stick to the wall, and that's why I wanted people to know who you were as a person, because I'm sure you've done interviews specifically on this story. I'm sure you have. Like, I know you've done interviews on this story, and I'm sure you've talked about it. But the deal is that people need to see and understand that this isn't just some random case, that you're some vindictive, evil person that's come out of nowhere and it's just been doing this. It's like, no, the only reason you're doing this is because the students actually matter to you. And that was what spoke to me more than anything in this story. And I was like, and I didn't just didn't just talk to your friends before this, by the way. I went and looked in to figure out more information about who you were and some more information about your general area. And people, you have allies, Zenaida. So you've got friends, people that like you. So I promise you that it's not just you who is coming out here saying that you're actually caring about your students. You have other people that say the same. And that's the only reason it matters to me. There's a lot of people that, you go look into a story there. So you start hearing about them, and then you go talk to them, and they're like, oh, that person's nuts. Don't talk to them. They're crazy. And you're like, okay, that's when you kind of be a little bit concerned. But that's not what happened here. That's not what happened here. You've got friends, okay? You've got friends, and you've got good allies that have helped you. And I'm glad that you managed to bring it forward, because this story deserves the respect that should be given. And the reality is that I've seen some people here recently. This is possibly the worst response I've seen to this so far. Okay, so someone yesterday came out and said, "Well, the girl in this case, you made it seem as if in your original reporting this was just some random high income. This is I'm literal phrasing here. Okay, high income girls getting abortions without telling their parents. What you really revealed was low income birth control." And I was like, "What did you just say?" Like, that is the most vile thing I've ever heard anybody say. You're referring to abortions that are not being done legally as low-income birth control. Like, what is the matter with you? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, that is the most horrible thing I've ever heard. Like, and by the way, you can go get birth control for reasonably, like, essentially free at any Planned Parenthood. So, I don't know why that would ever be the case. But the phrasing was was just too much for me. I was like, well, that's disgusting. I mean, and I'm sure it does happen, but that shouldn't. It doesn't matter because it's illegal. That is illegal. You can't do that. So I don't care what your reasoning behind it is. That's just it's wrong. And listening to people trying to defend this in any way that they can, they know we've got the recordings, and they claim that this is all lies. And we're just slanderous, defamatory, non-journalist. Asra, her and I spoke a couple days ago after this broke, this 62-page report. We spoke for quite some time, and she said she's never seen anything like this, and she thinks that she thinks that they violated a bunch of rules in that 62-page report, because I think that there's too many identifiers in that report. I think you can figure out who the girls are in that report, and that makes it illegal in my eyes. But we'll have to reassess that. But it really is incredible that they are so willing to come out and attack people, and you never seem to see. You never, like, even in the interviews that I've seen with you, then no one really gets to have the time to actually be able to talk to you and say, well, what's the real story? Why is it that this is happening to you? Why do they care? And why do you care so much? Why are you willing to do this? And that's what I thought was so important here. I wanted people to understand that it's not just, it's not just about the girls in this story. It's about someone who's willing to stand up for them. And that's why I think it matters the most to me.
Thank you so much for all your support and your honest journalism and bringing the truth to light since August the 5th, that all this broke around. And now I really want to keep going stronger than ever. We have to be very strong because the enemy cannot win this. We need to bring the truth to light with honesty and decency. And that's my main goal. And that's why I have been collecting all this evidence since 2022 when it was brought to my attention. And it has been 7 times that I have tried to bring it to the officials and Fairfax County Public Schools between Centerville and executives from headquarters in Gatehouse, but nothing has ever happened until now. So I'm willing to continue my fight, bringing things to light, and they are not going to scare me. Like I said with Fox 5 News, I am not scared of them anymore.
Well, that's good. And wants to have to these people, I think, is you can't be afraid. You can't be afraid of them, because if you are afraid of them, they will smell the fear and they will crush you, which is what they're trying to do currently. They think that they can have all their buddies in the Washington Post and everybody else come out here and write a report, and then all the people like me and the other reporters around this will all just evaporate. Oh no, the Washington Post. The Washington Post is a joke organization that doesn't even exist anymore, and they have fired 70% of their journalists over the past couple of years because they're going out of business. Okay, I don't care about the Washington Post. I guarantee you, my articles get more traction than the articles in the Washington Post do. I guarantee it. I mean, the organization, as far as I'm aware, is not even credible even remotely. They've been going out of business for years. But that's what they think, and that's what the people at the Fairfax story. They think that they have this media campaign that's just going to be so successful because, well, they've got the people. They've got the people that'll write it for them. They've got them to come out and defend them. Well, we have lots of loud friends, and that's not going to happen anymore. So they can continue to lie, and we're going to continue to expose the truth. So what I said the other day, they can dig the hole as deep as they'd like. I'm happy to push them into it. I have no problem. So anyway, Zenaida, thank you so much for coming in on here today. It was great. This is a good interview. And we will make sure we keep up with this, because this is only going to get more interesting, I assume, as they get more and more pressured, because as far as I'm aware, they're probably going to be backed into a corner now that this new recording has been released, and that they have nothing to say on it, because what do they have to say? They just lied to the Senate.
I appreciate so much, Walter, that you give me this opportunity to bring the truth to light again with you. I appreciate your honesty, your braveness, and your open mind to bring the truth and to express ourselves. And you can count on me for anything to solve all this. I have a lot of evidence to share with you, and I value you. Thank you so much for doing this to support our families, our parents that need to be included in the children's lives, and to fight against illegal abortions, which is atrocious. It's criminal to see all those things happening now during this time period. It's unbelievable. God bless you abundantly. Thank
God
you
bless
so
you.
much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
And thank all of you for tuning into this. This has been Zenaida Perez and Walter Curt in the interview with the Fairfax whistleblower that blew the story on the abortion scandal. There will be more information coming on about this story in the future as we continue to move through this story and as Fairfax continues to deny and come up with whatever lie that they possibly can. You can always catch the Political Theater weeknights at 9, and we'll be covering this story as it continues to unfold. Thanks for tuning in.